So today we're going to go into Raptor and his training and development and where he's at this point. And then when we're done, I'm going to go into some detail about his enclosure and why it's set up the way it is. So it's dinner time for Raptor, and we're going to do, well, I should say we're going to attempt his first feeding outside of the enclosure. Up until this point, everything we fed him has been where he feels most comfortable, at home. And you can tell he is quite hungry. Look at this. His tongue's a flicking and he's looking at everything moving. So he is more than ready for a meal. So yeah, so I leave the harness on him, because taking the harness on and off causes a little bit of stress. So you want to avoid any kind of negative experience. Look at him watch me open the top. I might get a tooth in my finger. He's pretty anxious. Okay, little man, let me get this on you, okay? No, eating my hand. Ooh, he is hungry. Look at that. Now, I have not been bitten by him yet, but he is hungry. Here, buddy. Don't bite me. I'm not. There's nothing to eat there. It's just my hand. Now, if you see, I'm not offering him little fingertips that he can bite. I'd rather him bite the back of my hand than my fingertips. There we go. See? I don't have any food yet. I'll get you some in just a minute, though. So you see, I got this little loop here. Here, okay, buddy. It's a little clogged with dirt here. Let's open it up. There we go. Ow! There we go. First bite. That didn't hurt at all. Why are you biting me, buddy? You've never bitten me before. Be nice. Hey, be nice. Be nice. Hoodoo, look at that. Oh, now I got some blood going.
You're bleeding.
Hey now. Hey now. Relax. Relax. The little teeth are like needles. Relax. Hey now. Oh, the blood's dripping. Let me get that cleaned up. I think that blood was making him hungry because he was reacting to it. He wants to eat me. Oh, come on, little man. Relax. Let's get this on you so we can get you out and feed you, huh? Oh, relax. Oh, relax. You've never given me issues before. Why are you giving me issues today? Huh? Oh, quit that. Quit.
Oh.
One eternity later.
Got it. That's the only time this has been an issue. Okay, so that was our first rodeo. I've had him for well over a week, never been bitten, never had that much issue getting the harness on. All kinds of problems today, but that's okay. You're just getting a little full of yourself, huh? You think you're tougher than you really are. Come on. Oh, you're okay. Look, you're coming out. Yeah, that's what you want. You want to come out, don't you? Come here. Come here. Come walk on this hand. Come walk on this hand. We're going to feed you. There you go. Good job. Good job. See, it's not that bad. Relax, buddy. Just relax. It's not that bad. Ooh, you're full of it today. You're a wild man. Okay, let's get some food in your tummy, wild man. So when we were in his cage, we started by bringing the food to him, and then eventually we got him to where we got him traveling across the enclosure to come to us. So we're going to start over since we're outside, and we're just going to bring the food to him. There.
Oh.
So that's just a little piece of a rat tail. And really we're just giving him that for calcium. That's his calcium for the day. There's obviously some calcium in dubias, but there's quite a bit more in bone. So we just gave him that little bit of a tail just for the calcium. We don't want to feed him rodents every single day. That's not a healthy diet. But we do want him to get enough calcium. Okay, you want your last one? And that little dubia there will be his last for the day. That should be more than plenty.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah, so you did great today. You know, some of you guys might look at his a little bit of a extra aggression, or I should say a lot of extra aggression, as a negative thing. I actually see it as a huge positive, which, I mean, you might think I'm crazy. Why is him biting me a positive? I think he's waking up. He's getting totally comfortable with his surroundings. He's getting confident, and I like that. I'm not worried about the little bite. It shows character. It shows that he's awake, he's aggressive, he's ready to eat. And he needs to learn that he doesn't need to bite me, but hey, I will take a little guy biting me like that over one being scared and shy or not interested in eating. So I was happy to see that. He was extra spunky today with his feeding. You saw he was actively seeking me out, seeking the tongs out, even biting the tongs when they were empty. So he's getting the idea of what we want him to learn, which is that the purple tongs are food. So pretty soon here, we're going to be able to start using them as a lure, put them on a string and let him chase it. So, oh, he's swallowing. I thought he was getting ready to bite me. I'm like, hey, what are you biting me for? But see, he needs to also know, hey, you know, my hand's not food. I like that you got spunk. I'm happy that you're waking up, coming out of your shell. And won't be long and we'll be good little buddies, huh? Huh. Spunky little guy. I was happy to see that. Is that a yummy meal? See, like he's testing the air to see if I've got food. You got food? See, my fingers don't mean food. My fingers don't bring the food. The tongs do. And if you'll notice, the tongs are gone and out of the way. We don't want them visible to him unless we're feeding him. We want to avoid doing like I did in the first video where I just kind of waved him around. We were doing that because he didn't know what they meant. Well, he knows what they mean now. So we need to make sure the only time they're visible is when food is on its way. That way he knows when he's being fed and when he's just being handled. And he doesn't get like he was actually doing there. I mean, when I opened that cage, he's ready to eat me. And that's why those brightly colored tongs are valuable, not just for calling him and retrieving him, but also for preventing him trying to eat me. And look how he's just a little teeny guy. Could you imagine him doing that when he's big enough to swallow a rat whole? When he's big enough that he could almost swallow my hand, you know, that's not a fun thing. So you want to make sure that while he's little, he learns all the right habits. You don't have an accident when he's big enough to put you in the hospital. I typically, as a rule of thumb, I get him out when he's cool in the mornings, when he first gets up, and then I warm him up with me under the basking light. That might have been part of his aggression and excitement.
Ooh.
Tip it over snowman on yourself there. You're so spunky today. I like it, Raptor man. I do, I like it. I prefer you didn't bite me, but I like that you're so spunky today. I do. You're acting like an Argus monitor. You are. I like it a lot. I do. I want you to be my friend and not bite me, but I love that you're so spunky and full of yourself today. I do, yeah. You want to go up on my hat. I could see it. He says, I want to get up on your hat. Let me get up on your hat. You want to go up on my hat? There you go. Alrighty, so I've had some questions why Raptor's enclosure is set up the way it is. It's very species specific and it fits his needs as perfect as we could possibly get. And what's interesting, if you look at the soil, it even looks like the soil in the outback of Australia. So just wanted to tell you guys, the details so that you understand why it's set up the way it's set up and how it actually is set up, because you can't really see more than just a few things here. So you'll notice his water pan is rather small and simple. He's a terrestrial lizard, not an aquatic lizard, so he doesn't need a huge bath pan. He doesn't do anything more than step in it for a moment. You see he's kind of wet. Get a quick drink. So we're sticking with this size, and in a couple weeks we're going to upgrade him to a bigger bath pan. So you'll notice there's a lot of soil in this terrarium. You might wonder, why is it so deep? This is about 7 inches of soil as his substrate. So some people think this is sand. It's not just sand. This is desert soil. So if you go down in southern Utah, it's a red desert down there, and they have this soil. We went down there and we spent quite a bit of time picking just the right soil with just the right consistency. Now, why this is important, as you see him doing back there, they dig burrows. They are a burrowing species. And if you look at a lot of the videos showing Argus monitors in Australia, they're living in some very desolate country, a lot of times with very little plant life. And so what they do, since they don't have rocks or logs to hide under, or other debris, they will dig their own dens in the middle of this arid landscape and create their own little hiding spot to get away from predators or to get out of the heat or whatever they need. So he sleeps in a burrow every night, a burrow that he dug. He'll often dig multiple burrows throughout the terrarium and cover up an old one, dig up a new one. He loves to dig. One thing that's super, super important with monitor lizards in general, but especially this species, because he digs so much, if you were to just place a heavy item like a stone just on top of the sand, he's going to dig under it, and at some point it's going to collapse on him and crush him. So underneath this stone, we have drilled legs that are super solid. Solid as a little table. He could dig under this all day long and this stone will not move. Now, his water dish does not have a table that it sits on. We will make one when we end up getting a bigger water dish, but his water dish full of water is not heavy enough to harm him. We could put it right on his back and he can just move right out from under it. However, this stone, if the stone was not secure, it would crush him and kill him. So this digging does two different things. Number one, it provides great enrichment and exercise for him while he's in his enclosure. Secondly, and just as importantly, it helps him to create his own little micro habitat. Where he comes from, going down in a burrow is an opportunity to get a nice, humid, moist environment, which may be above ground, it's quite arid and dry, but down below ground, there's a lot of moisture in the soil. Even in pretty arid deserts, there's a lot more moisture down in the soil. So he can get down and kind of help to keep from dehydrating. Also, it's a controlled temperature. So when it gets nighttime, all of these lights are set on timers. And when they shut off at 7:30 and then turn on again 7:30 in the morning, he's got a 12-hour period where he doesn't have the extra heat from the lamps. However, underneath this terrarium, there are 2 heat mats. And they keep it so that the soil stays right around low 80s to mid 80 temperature range. So between 81 and 85 degrees, when he burrows down in the soil, his den stays that nice warm 80 to 85 degrees all night long. He doesn't totally cool off like the rest of his enclosure would do. You see these cords coming up? Those heated mats that I described, they aren't just turned on 24/7. They actually have a thermostat so that they don't get too hot. He can dig all the way down to the bottom of the terrarium and lay flat on the glass, and it's not going to burn him. The temperature thermostat that I have set up, it's going to shut off once it gets to mid 80s. So that hot pad will never get above mid 80s, maybe upper 80s at the very hottest. So he's not going to burn himself if he digs down and lays flat on the glass. So if you look really closely here, you can see the top layer is quite dry, and then down below, it's still holding moisture. Now that's important. If it was moist all the way through, well, it would create too much moisture. He's not a tropical monitor species like, say, a mangrove monitor or an Asian water monitor that likes to live in super humid, super wet environments. However, he's not necessarily like a perenni, for example, that lives in strictly super dry environments. So by having it dry up above and moist down below, he's able to kind of juggle the balance between being dry and being moist. Because he's a young monitor, we want to make sure he doesn't get dehydrated. So how we control that humidity is, you'll notice here on the top, this is solid. A lot of times people get these aquariums and try and create a habitat for these reptiles by putting a wire top on it. And that's a horrible idea for multiple reasons. Number one is all the heat that you're trying to create in there, it escapes, just floats out the top. And it creates an actual cycle, because the sun, this light shines down and heats the terrarium, which that hot air then rises out and cool new air enters in. And that makes this turn into a super, super dry place. Sucks all the moisture out of it. So you're losing moisture and you're losing heat. So we've got it solid, but you'll notice if you come to this side, we do have underneath here a strip of wire. So if it's getting too dry, all we have to do is cover it completely, and the only air escaping is through these cracks. And that's plenty of air to give him, you know, oxygen to breathe and such. Because of the heating action that I described, there's plenty of airflow coming through, but not so much to just suck it dry. Now if it starts getting too moist, which at times it will because of all the substrate that's in here, you'll see it start to cloud up. Then we'll open it up a little bit, and if we just left it open, he'd of course just crawl out through the crack. So we've got this wire mesh that allows us to leave it as open as we need to keep the humidity just right. We can leave it a little bit more open or a little bit less open depending on the humidity needs. What's important is to have a little humidity detector in there so you know how humid it is. That way you're not guessing, is it too dry, is it too humid? You can actually know. And just as important, actually far more important than even knowing the humidity, is knowing the temperature. This unit reads both temperature and humidity, but I have other units like this one here that only read the temperature. This terrarium has a temperature range, which is important. You don't want him to be stuck in the heat, and you don't want him to be stuck in the cool. You want him to be able to choose how warm or cool he wants to be. Where he's sitting right now is somewhere between mid 130s and mid 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's just right for a basking temperature for this species of monitor. He needs to be able to get really, really hot if he wants to, but if his entire terrarium was anywhere near that temperature, he'd be dead, like really quick. 140 degrees would kill him like that. But he does need it for that short duration, for a few minutes. When he recharges and he heats himself up, it helps aid in digestion, and it's totally natural. Those are the types of temperatures he'd be able to get sitting out on a rock or in a flat piece of sand in the direct sunlight during the heat of day. He'll be able to get up into the 140s, 150s, even 160 degree temperature range, sitting right in the direct sun. So he needs to be able to have that as an option, but he also needs to be able to get out of the heat. And if you look, the temperatures range, you know, right around this sunning rock that he has. They might be down in the, you know, mid 90s to lower hundreds. And then as you get kind of in the middle of the terrarium, we're getting down in the low 90s. And then down here at the coolest spot, he's in the low 80s. So he can lay over here in the low 80s, which you almost never see him over here for very long. You know, he might be walking, but he doesn't lay over here very long. So the low 80s ranging all the way to the almost mid hundreds. So he's able to have this perfect temperature range. He's able to have an appropriate habitat for his species. One thing that some people might ask, why doesn't he have hides? Why don't I have set up little places for him to hide? Many locations where this species is commonly found, there's nothing but arid desert. So it's natural for his only hiding spots to be the ones that he created himself. Now you'll notice I've got multiple different lights here. As you could guess, this one's for heat. This one's also for heat, to keep up the temperature throughout the terrarium so it doesn't get too cool. But obviously it's producing a lot less heat than on this side. It keeps up the ambient temperature throughout the terrarium. You'll see this funny little long lamp that's hanging down lower. The reason that's hanging lower than the rest of the lights is it's the UVB bulb. And this special UVB bulb needs to be a certain number of inches from him for him to get the most out of the UVB. And so I've measured it and set it up appropriately so that he's the right distance from the bulb. And that makes sure that just like out in sunlight, you get your UV rays, and it helps you get vitamin D. Same thing for him. One thing you guys should know, he grows really, really fast. This enclosure is going to last him roughly till the beginning of May or June. So we've got a couple more months while he can live in this enclosure. So you may wonder, why did you have this temporary enclosure for him? Why didn't you just put him in a permanent enclosure to begin with? Well, there's a couple reasons for it. And the main number one reason is you want access to a new monitor that you're trying to tame and train. You want him to be right in the middle of the house where you're going to see him every day so that he gets constant exposure to the kids running around, the dogs running around, me walking in and out. And just as important, I want him to be super accessible. If I get the whim, oh, I want to go pick him out, I can just walk over, open the cage, and take him out. I don't have to walk all the way downstairs where his permanent enclosure will eventually be. I don't have to walk all the way downstairs to go get him. He's right here constantly reminding me, hey, maybe you should come scratch me on the head. Hey, maybe you should pull me out and play with me. So it helps me as a person to interact with him more, and it helps him as an animal to see the human interaction when we move around on our daily activities. So that's why he's in this temporary enclosure. Give it a few months and he will be in a much larger enclosure that he'll be able to grow into for the rest of his life. So yeah, that's the enclosure. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask.